Hey, groupers, Pastor Marshall. Mark chapter 14, we're getting close to the end, and this is a pretty serious chapter, very significant. Well, before we talk about the chapter, let's just get ourselves talking a little bit. I talked about funerals in my message on Sunday, and me possibly performing your funeral. What do you think will be said at your funeral? Just nothing gruesome here, just what do you think are the things that will be shared at your funeral? Well, how does the way that Jesus sent his disciples to find the upper room give evidence that Jesus is in charge of this whole situation? And how does Jesus' control of the events of his passion, the events of the last week of his life, how does that encourage you? Think about if you're going through a difficult time and knowing this, that Jesus is in control of these details, how can that help you face your difficult situations? Next, what do you think Jesus' disciples are thinking when he says that one of them will betray him? What do you think is going through their mind? Who do you think they think is the one he's talking about? What do you think that they're thinking when he utters this statement? What do you try to do to keep the Lord's Supper from becoming routine, from becoming mundane? What is your habit to try to keep it real and fresh on Sunday morning? What do you suppose was the reason that Judas chose a kiss for pointing out Jesus? Why do you think that this was the gesture that he chose? What do you think the Jewish leaders were looking for when they called witnesses to testify against Jesus? What evidence were they looking for? What were they fishing for? What is your impression of the high priest's behavior in this story in Mark chapter 14? And then, what are the significance of the two things that Jesus says? He says, I am, and he says, the Son of Man, these statements about himself. What are the significance of these two phrases to the high priest in Mark chapter 14? And then, finally, what moment in Mark chapter 14 so far have you found the most moving? As we've looked at this chapter, what has really touched you or stuck with you in Mark chapter 14? Well, every week we just want to be reminded of our application. And so this week I just kind of went two different directions, gave you two different principles. Which principle connected with you the most this week? First, that revelation brings responsibility. And second, it's difficult to spot counterfeit Christianity. Which one of those did you hang a hat on? Well, hope that you have a great Bible study. Look forward to seeing you next week. Mark chapter 15. And then Easter. God bless.